What's going on, guys, and welcome to episode 264 of Hashtag AskGSM here today for December 19th, 2018. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. Christmas being a mere week away, making today's show the go-home show before the holiday. Before we get started, though, one real quick cheap plug. We have the 2018 WWE/NXT Year in Review Awards going on right now over at nextwrestling.net. Vote today for the match of the year, superstar of the year, feud of the year, shocking moment of the year, most disappointing superstar of the year, and much, much more. So go on over to nextwrestling.net, vote in all the polls. The results will be revealed and reviewed on next week's edition of Wrestle Rant Radio. Speaking of Wrestle Rant Radio, we got a stack show this week coming up tomorrow on nextwrestling.net and iTunes. Alexis and I breaking down our on-site report and review for ROH Final Battle from last week. Had a great time there talking all about that on Wrestle Rant Radio tomorrow. So subscribe today on nextwrestling.net and on iTunes. So without further ado, if you guys want to send in a question to hashtag AskGSM, you can tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below on the comment section of this very video. I'll include it in next week's edition. So let's get started here. First with Brandon A. from YouTube. His first question was, top 3 matches of the week. This is a toss-up because there were a lot of great matches between the Final Battle pay-per-view I was at on Friday and then TLC on Sunday. 2 very good to great shows. So off the top of my head, the top 3 matches that I would say were the best bouts of the week were the TLC main event, Asuka, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, the TLC Triple Threat Smackdown Women's Championship match. That would be number 1. This is in no particular order, by the way, too. So that match, then Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles for the WWE Championship, also from TLC. Then from Final Battle on Friday, the Ladder War 7 main event between the Young Bucks, the Briscoes, and SoCal Uncensored for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship. And then some honorable mentions also from Final Battle, Jeff Cobb and Adam Page for the Ring of Honor World Championship. And what was the other really, really standout match? Another excellent match from that pay-per-view. Zack Sabre Jr., Jonathan Gresham, the I Quit match was also great. Jay Lethal and Cody. A lot of great matches on the show, but those would be my top 3 off the top of my head. Brandon's second question, top 5 main roster pay-per-views of 2018. Again, going off the top of my head here, Evolution would easily be number 1. TLC would also be up there. I thought TLC was by no means an amazing show, but I can't not include it here on this list, if only because it had 2 of the best main roster matches, pay-per-view matches I've seen in all of 2018, between the aforementioned TLC main event and then the Daniel Bryan AJ Styles match as well. So TLC, again, in no particular order, would probably be in the top 5 there. So Evolution, TLC, Royal Rumble, yes, I was there, so I'm biased, but I was also at Money in the Bank. And Money in the Bank would be an honorable mention. I would not put that in my top 5. TLC would surpass that, but Royal Rumble would be my top 5. I thought Royal Rumble overall was a great show. Ronda Rousey debuted. We had the first ever Women's Royal Rumble, which was a lot of fun. The Men's Rumble was one of the best I've ever seen. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and AJ Styles having an entertaining opener. We had The Bar beating Seth Rollins and Jason Jordan for the Raw Tag Team title. So overall, a very good, fun show, kicking off the road to WrestleMania with a bang. Survivor Series, another pretty good show from a few months ago. The Raw and SmackDown theme really did nothing for me, but again, you can't not include that match, or rather the show, in a top 5 main roster pay-per-view countdown, if only because of Daniel Bryan and Brock Lesnar, and then Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey. Both matches were excellent and deserve praise here, so that show cannot not be on this list. And then finally, Hell in a Cell. I thought that was a very underrated pay-per-view. Yeah, the main event was shit. Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns inside Hell in a Cell for the Universal Championship. But overall, I thought it was a great show. The undercard was excellent. You had an outstanding Raw Tag Team title match between Ambrose and Rollins and McIntyre and Ziggler. Charlotte and Becky having a great match. I think that was where Becky became SmackDown Women's Champion for the second time. So that was cool. They had a number of other really, really good matches that don't come to my head right now, but I remember the undercard being very good. Samoa Joe and AJ Styles had a great match for the WWE Championship. So yeah, overall, great show there as well. And let's see, Brandon's. So yeah, that would be the top 5. It would be Evolution, or no, that was the top 5 pay-per-views. Yeah, Evolution, TLC, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, and Hell in a Cell would be my top 5. So Brandon's third question here. Top 5 main roster pay-per-view matches of the year. This was a bit tougher without going back and listing every single one, looking back at every single fucking pay-per-view, because we've had a lot of pay-per-views in 2018. That makes a lot of main roster pay-per-view matches. So again, going off the top of my head, again, I can't not include the top 2 matches from TLC on Sunday because they were so freaking great. Asuka, Charlotte Flair, and Becky Lynch from TLC's main event. Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles for the WWE Championship, also from TLC on Sunday. From Survivor Series, Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar. From Backlash, going a ways back here, and from the May pay-per-view, Seth Rollins and The Miz for the Intercontinental Championship, which I thought was an excellent match to kick off that show, the only really good match on that show. And then from Evolution a few months ago, Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's Championship in the last woman standing match. So those would be my top 5. I'm sure there's more, such as Asuka and Charlotte from WrestleMania, or I don't even know, a Samoa Joe AJ Styles match maybe, or like a Seth Rollins Dolph Ziggler match. No real match, no other matches come to mind, but that would be my top 5. AJ and Bryan from TLC, Asuka, Lynch, and Flair from TLC as well, Bryan and Lesnar from Survivor Series. I guess you could throw in Charlotte and Rousey from Survivor Series if you want to as an honorable mention. But Rollins and Miz from Backlash, and Charlotte Flair and Becky from Evolution a few months ago. Brandon's fourth question here. You forgot to mention Black Panther as one of the best movies this year a few weeks back. Obviously, it's your opinion, and you don't have to view it as one of the best Marvel movies, but it is definitely one of the best of 2018. If I am wrong, why? And also, you are definitely wrong about A Christmas Story. It's just my opinion, but it's also a fact. All of this is in good fun, of course. LOL. Yeah, Christmas Story, like I said a few weeks ago, is just not my cup of tea. I really do not care about A Christmas Story. Again, not saying it's a fact, just saying that the movie is not my cup of tea. It just bored me to tears, and it's going to continue to bore me to tears. I do not really care for A Christmas Story. I'm sorry. It's just the truth. But going back to Black Panther here. It was not one of my favorite movies of the year. It really wasn't. I thought Black Panther was a great movie. I'm not denying that. I mean, if you want to say it was one of the best of 2018, again, it's purely your opinion. It's purely anyone's opinion. It's all fucking subjective. If I had to, say off the top of my head, was it one of the best of 2018? I guess so. But then you might be also asking me, well, if it's one of the best, why wouldn't you like it? Why isn't it in your top 5? Why isn't it like one of your favorite movies of the year? Because again, it's not my cup of tea. I thought the movie was great. I thought it was overhyped. The build of the movie was just outstanding. All the buzz around that movie was just absolutely unbelievable. But then I see the movie and I'm not really blown away. I thought it was a really, really good, if not great movie with a unique story and just a different twist on it. And I could see why it would be so talked about and so not like revolutionary, but like why it's such a statement in today's society with, all the shit going on nowadays with, race wars and all this other dumb shit, and this kind of brought people together. I thought it was a great movie. I don't know, maybe just because I couldn't relate to it or something. I'm not exactly sure. I don't think that's exactly the case. I think there's a lot of people out there who could not relate to what's going on. I mean, I think everyone can relate to the movie, if not just a little bit, just because there's so much shit going on nowadays with just people hating on each other for no reason and all this other dumb shit. So I don't think that's exactly it. But I don't know. I just was not blown away. I'm a big Marvel fan. I'm not saying it's not one of the best Marvel movies. I wouldn't even argue that. But I'm also just arguing it's not one of my favorites of 2018. I'm not saying it's not one of the best movies of 2018. If you want to argue that, I could see that because it was definitely one of the biggest box office draws of this year, along with a few other elite few movies. So I guess you can argue that, hands down, absolutely. I just did not really care for the movie as one of the best of 2018. I had more fun watching Ant-Man and the Wasp from July. Shirley had more fun watching Avengers from April. Black Panther, I thought was, again, an excellent movie. If not, just, I struggle to say it was one of my favorites just because I don't remember walking away from that movie thinking, oh, I want to see it again, or I can't wait to get it on DVD. It's been available on Netflix now for months. I have yet to watch it back. I just do not give, not that I don't give a shit about Black Panther, but just I watched it and I was not like overly impressed. I did not walk away saying, oh my God, I'm in tears, I'm blown away, I'm emotionally shattered. Not really. I thought it was a very good and fun movie, but by no means like amazing. But if you feel that way, again, entirely subjective. Even if everyone else feels that way, I just don't feel that way personally. But it was, if you want to say it's one of the best of 2018, just critically wise, because it was critically acclaimed and because of, how much money it brought in, then absolutely. But personally, was it one of my favorites? Definitely not. His next question here. I have a differing opinion than a lot of people on the women's evolution that I would like you to respond to next week. I am just writing so you can read it on the air so I can remember to mention it for #AskJSM next week. So looking forward to your question next week, Brandon. Elena the Y from YouTube as well. She's got a couple questions here. First question being, I appreciate your honesty about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but that said, I'm begging you to see it before 2018 ends. I'm like proud and laughing and crying all at once over how much I actually like this movie. Doesn't matter if you're a casual or a hardcore or whatever you want to define yourself, anybody with even the slightest interest in Spider-Man, the superhero genre, the animation medium, films in general, should see this impossibly good, beautiful movie that's fun, weird, and emotional, all in the best ways, all in the right places. You're probably tired of me gushing though, so why don't I ask you to tell me about your favorite movies, and so you can have an excuse to gush over your interests. Well, I've done that before, so I won't take the time to talk about Back to the Future and the Marvel movies and Avengers and Ghostbusters and whatnot. But yeah, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I talked about that briefly last week. I didn't really have much of a interest, like much of a, I need to see this movie before the year is out. Not really. Hearing you talk about it, hearing people rave about it this past weekend when it came out on social media, where I work, etc., makes me want to see it a little bit more. Definitely more so than Aquaman. I still don't give a shit about Aquaman. Bumblebee, same thing. I know the reviews are in, the movies are very good. I still could not give two shits about Transformers. I still could not give two shits about Aquaman. I'm sorry, I don't. But of the three movies, I would absolutely see Spider-Man over those three movies. It's not one of those like mandatory viewings for me. It has to be like right time, right day, right circumstance to go see Spider-Man. So if I don't see it before the end of 2018, I'll probably likely see it early on in 2019, we'll see. But I've heard it got great reviews. It looks like an entertaining movie. Again, like I said, I would absolutely see it over the other two movies, that being Bumblebee or Aquaman. There's no other movies coming out in the remainder of 2018 that really pique my interest all that much. But I am looking forward to Escape Room next month. Glass, obviously. Those both come out in January, which is going to be great. But Spider-Man, I am a bit more intrigued now than I was even a week ago to go see the movie. Elena's second question here, kind of related to that. Also, I just want to clarify something about my comment on Spider-Man Homecoming and state my feelings towards the MCU because they kind of go hand in hand. When I say that I wasn't impressed by it, I didn't mean I disliked it. I just came out of it with the same feeling I get out of the vast majority of the MCU movies. Fun to watch in a group, well acted with the occasionally funny bit, and an overall okay experience that I will never revisit. They just feel safe, like a product out of a conveyor belt, and outside of Guardians of the Galaxy movies and maybe Black Panther and Doctor Strange, they all feel pretty interchangeable. I've got friends who've been taking me to each of them in hopes that I'll finally be converted into a proper fan, but so far only 2 to 4 out of 20 of them have come anywhere close. Do you have an argument for why I should be a bigger fan of them or no? Again, I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you, try to sell you on the Marvel movies. It's really one of those things a lot like wrestling, where if you're not immediately intrigued, if you've seen a lot of these movies and you're not sold on them, then that's personally just your opinion. I think the movies are great, a lot like Brandon was saying before about Black Panther. He's not going to sit there and try to sell me on the movie. I really did not care that much about Black Panther, but I'm not going to deny the fact that the movie was very good, because it was. I really enjoyed it, but I'm not saying it was one of my favorites of 2018, because it wasn't. But going back to the Marvel movies, yeah, I mean, I think they're excellent. I think they're like the NXT to like the DC's WWE, where NXT has this great storytelling. They have this awesome story being told over the course of a few months. They have that with the Marvel movies, albeit in the case that they tell the stories over the course of a few years. I think the acting's very good. I think occasionally funny bit is a bit of a stretch. I think they're a lot funnier than that. They're not comedies, but I think they're very entertaining because, I know Guardians was obviously really funny, but I think the other movies have a lot more than occasionally funny. But again, that's purely my opinion. You're absolutely inclined to disagree with me there. But yeah, I think the movies definitely have something to offer for everyone. They're fun. They have good stories. They're action-packed. They're by no means like Oscar-worthy or anything along those lines. I mean, in most cases anyway. But I do enjoy the MCU movies. I was not sold immediately, but I think because I was watching them individually and not like as a package. It wasn't really until I saw Avengers that I got sold on the MCU. But I did see Iron Man's 2 and 3. Or no, 3 came out after Avengers. I saw Iron Man 2, Captain America, and it might have been it. I don't know. I definitely saw Iron Man, but not in theaters before I saw Avengers. So by that point, I was not sold on this bigger universe that was the MCU until I saw the first Avengers, and I've been sold ever since. So, again, there's really no rhyme or reason as to why you absolutely 120% no question have to be a fan of the Marvel movies, because if you're saying that you haven't seen them and you're not like, oh, why should I go see them? That's a different story. If you've seen the movies and you don't really care for them all that much, there's nothing really that I can say that's going to sway your opinion any. So again, if you're not into the movies, that's totally fine. I know a lot of movies that are not. I know a lot of people that are not into the Marvel movies. That's totally normal. But yeah, like you said, I love Guardians of the Galaxy, one of my favorite movies of all time. Black Panther, I already discussed that earlier. Doctor Strange, I thought was great. I thought that was a very underrated gem. I still have yet to watch it back, which I guess says a lot. But I think it was. I still thought it was a very good movie, and hope to rewatch it again soon. FD from Facebook, his first question was, do you see Asuka being SmackDown Women's Champion for a long period of time, considering Charlotte and Becky Lynch, two of her opponents at TLC last Sunday, might potentially be focusing on Ronda Rousey moving forward on Raw once Royal Rumble has settled? She should be. I don't know why she wouldn't be. Like you said, I think Becky and Charlotte will likely be focusing on Ronda come WrestleMania season. It already seems that way. I could see them going back to Charlotte and Asuka at WrestleMania if they want to. If it ends up being Becky and Ronda one-on-one, then yes, we should get Asuka and Charlotte 2. I mean, I guess 3, because they had their match on Smackdown a few weeks ago. It would technically be Charlotte and Asuka 3 at WrestleMania, which I'd be all for. I think the match would be great. Tell the story that Asuka now has the championship that she couldn't beat Charlotte for, or that she couldn't beat Charlotte for earlier this year. She has yet to pin Charlotte. There's a very good, simple story to be told there. But at the same time, if they want to do Ronda, Charlotte, and Becky in a triple threat at WrestleMania, I'm not sure who that leaves for Asuka. Asuka already beat Naomi on this week's SmackDown. What are you going to feed her, fucking Lana or something? Like, there's no one really on that SmackDown roster that means anywhere near as close as Charlotte, Becky, or Asuka. I guess they could build up someone like a Sonya or a Mandy or the Iconics. None of those matchups interest me. So considering none of those women are going to be beating Asuka for the championship anytime soon, I'm all for Asuka holding that championship for a long period of time. And I think she will. Unless Charlotte beats her for that belt at like WrestleMania or something, I think Asuka is going to be in possession of that championship for the foreseeable future. FD's second question here. Do you agree that Hiroshi Tanahashi is considered to be the comeback star of the year since he rose up from a really bad injury to headline Wrestle Kingdom 13 for the IWGP Championship in a span of a year? Any other candidates that, in your opinion, would you consider for the comeback star of the year as well? So these two guys aren't really coming back from injury. That's a great candidate, by the way. I don't really follow New Japan, but knowing that would make him one of the top candidates for superstar, or rather comeback star of the year, rather. Two other guys that I would throw in there too. Buddy Murphy. Again, he wasn't hurt, but the guy was a fucking afterthought at this time a year ago, doing jobs to the up-and-coming stars of the NXT branded house shows. The guy was not even on NXT TV. But Triple H, after overhauling 205 Live, took a chance on him, put him in the WWE Cruiserweight Championship tournament, and the guy flourished. And he's been killing it ever since, and is now the Cruiserweight champion on the 205 Live brand. So he really just needed an opportunity to shine. He got it. He made the most of it, and he's been killing it ever since. So Murphy has got to be one of, if not the biggest comeback star of 2018, going from being a persona non grata individual on NXT in the main roster to one of the most talked about and one of the most biggest MVPs on all of WWE's main roster programming between Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and 205 Live. The guy has been one of the best in 2018, so he would be up there, as well as PCO. I don't really follow the indie scene closely, but I do know, like, if I've heard of these guys, then I know that they're doing quite well. PCO, I think, was he wasn't the Mountie, but he was like the other half of that tag team of like the Quebecers or some shit like that. And he reinvented himself with this like zombie-like character or something like that. Really got people talking with his work on the indies this year, and is now since signed with Ring of Honor. And the guy debuted at their most set of television tapings the night after Final Battle. I just watched a video yesterday where he joined Marty Scurll as part of Villain Enterprises, along with Brody King, another recent signee for Ring of Honor. But PCO, going from a guy that has not been relevant in like 20 years. The guy's like fucking 50 years old or something like that, but he's also like one of the biggest stars on the independent scene right now, and he can go in the ring. He did a moonsault off the top rope when I saw him do the Ring of Honor debut a few days ago. So he's another big comeback star of 2018 too, I would argue. Their next question: do you feel the final card for Wrestle Kingdom 13 would make the show a potential pro wrestling show of the year for 2019, even though the year has not yet started, considering the final card looks absolutely stacked? Dude, Wrestle Kingdom is always the show of the year. It's not even, maybe if it's not the show of the year, it's one of the top candidates for show of the year. Wrestle Kingdom, as far as I can remember, has always been one of the best pro wrestling shows, if not the best pro wrestling show of the year, every year, dating back to like 2015, 2014, if not even further back than that. Wrestle Kingdom has been killing it. New Japan has been killing it for a long time now, so that doesn't surprise me. So yeah, to say that Wrestle Kingdom 13 might be the show of 2019 without 2019 having even started yet is not much of a stretch at all. I would not be surprised to see Wrestle Kingdom 13 just steal that award and hold it hostage until the end of 2019. And the show's bound to be held, I think, January 4th or something like that. So I would not be surprised to see that award just clearing house and just being taken by the Wrestle Kingdom show until the end of 2019, because I doubt much is going to be coming close to topping it or matching it, aside from maybe the NXT TakeOver shows or another New Japan show. It would not surprise me in the slightest to see Wrestle Kingdom just take that award and hold it for hostage until the end of 2019. At Jeremy8911 from Twitter, which show do you think Lars Sullivan, EC3, Nikki Cross, Heavy Machinery, and Lacey Evans should be on? Good question. I saw a lot of people talking about this on Twitter this past week. So for each one, I want to say all SmackDown, because Raw has been abysmal for months now, and I have no faith they would do well on Raw. But SmackDown, in terms of NXT call-ups, is not much better. Andrade's done well for himself, but the guy has been persona non grata for months. For months. So again, I think a guy like him, Andrade, should be doing a lot better for himself right now, but he's not. Sanity has done nothing on SmackDown. The Iconics have done nothing on SmackDown. So again, just because you're on SmackDown may mean that you're better off than if you were on Raw, but it's still not like guaranteed that you're going to be successful. So with all these people, assuming they have to be split between the two shows and they can't all be put on SmackDown, I think Sullivan should be on SmackDown. I've said this before, but if he's on Raw, he's got Baron Corbin to feud with. Baron Corbin Braun Strowman, Bobby Lashley, Drew McIntyre, a lot of big guys. Lars Sullivan should not be on Raw. Yeah, Raw needs all the help it can get, but I don't think Lars Sullivan is the answer to all of Raw's woes. It's just going to make matters worse to see him booked horribly against these other fellow monsters. Why not go to SmackDown when he can be the lone monster over there? Big Show's gone. You have Samoa Joe, but that's about it. Lars Sullivan can be a destroyer over on that show. So I would put Sullivan over on SmackDown. I would put EC3 on SmackDown too, but I think if you put Sullivan on SmackDown, that would have to mean that you put EC3 on Raw. And it would be another nice mid-card heel for them to use. They don't have many heels. They have Corbin, who does nothing for anyone at this point. They have Bobby Lashley, who they already messed up. They have Drew McIntyre, who's doing well for himself. But that's about it. The well runs dry beyond those guys. Yeah, they have Owens coming back. They have Sami Zayn coming back. Maybe EC3 gets called up as a babyface. I don't know. I would rather see him on SmackDown, but Raw is not a bad choice either. I think SmackDown needs the mid-card talent more, but it really does not matter. I think EC3 would be a better fit for the Blue brand, but he would have to be put on Raw if I'm putting Sullivan on SmackDown. For the women, Nikki Cross and Lacey Evans, I think Nikki Cross is a better fit for SmackDown. Lacey Evans just kind of feels like a Raw girl to me. Nikki Cross, if she's on SmackDown, Sanity's over there anyway, so why not put her on SmackDown with the rest of them? Even though they're afterthoughts, you could at least do something with the entire group if you want to. So put her on SmackDown, Lacey Evans on Raw. Lacey Evans can be one of the top heels on that brand anyway, because they have the Riot Squad who mean nothing. Mickie James is with Alexa Bliss, who's been out for a while now. Nia Jax means nothing. I think Lacey Evans would be a better fit over on SmackDown. Nikki Cross, I feel like, could be lost in the shuffle on Raw. Being overshadowed by Bayley and Sasha Banks and Ronda Rousey and Ember Moon and Natalya. Put her on SmackDown. And then for Heavy Machinery, they could go either way. I think Raw has enough tag teams. SmackDown really doesn't. Yeah, they have the Bar, Usos, and New Day. But again, the well runs dry beyond those guys, because the Clones are never on TV. They're fucking terrible anyway. You have Sanity. It's something, I guess. You have, Sanity. Who was the other one? The other tag team. Oh, Anderson and Gallows. They were on SmackDown this week. That's about it. You have the Bar on SmackDown, the current SmackDown Tag Team Champions. I'd put Heavy Machinery on SmackDown and feed them with the Bar at some point. If you put them on Raw, we have Roode and Gable as the Raw Tag Team Champions, so they really can't feud with them from the get-go unless they're going to be heels, which they shouldn't be. You have the Revival, you have the Lucha Dragons, you have AOP. I think Raw is fine. They have enough diversity with their tag teams, but it really doesn't matter. As long as they're used right, it doesn't really matter to me. My thoughts on Mustafa Ali pinning Daniel Bryan, and do you think this leads to a WWE Championship match between them at the Royal Rumble? I don't think so. It would be cool if it did. I don't think it will. I think it would be a great idea just because you don't need like a marquee match for the WWE Championship at the Rumble, because the Rumble matches sell themselves. But, I know I would be all for, Ali and Bryan facing off for the championship at WrestleMania, or at WrestleMania too, but the Rumble specifically. I do think it's going to happen on an upcoming episode of SmackDown, like the first SmackDown of 2019. That's my bet. But I think Ali pinning Bryan is awesome, because it solidifies him as a star from the get-go on SmackDown. The guy is great. It makes people believe that he's just more than a cruiserweight. He's not just another guy from 205 Live. He's going to be a big deal. So I'm glad he pinned Bryan. It immediately sets him up for a championship match and introduces him in a big way. So I'm a big fan of that. At the Wrestle Guy from Twitter, hypothetically, if one of these guys won the Rumble, what's the more appealing match to you? Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar, or Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar, and why? That's a great question. I think Rollins and Brock could tell the better story because they have unfinished business from years ago. Drew and Brock would be a fresher match because we've seen no interaction whatsoever between McIntyre and Brock. And I think McIntyre beating Brock for the championship would be awesome. And, I think McIntyre can be a big star anyway. But having him beat Brock and win the Rumble, or flip those two things around, would be great, would immediately solidify the guy as a star, if he's not a star already. Rollins, he's a bigger baby face, so again, honestly, really either one is fine by me, as long as Rollins and McIntyre beat Brock. As long as one of the two beat Brock, and maybe Braun of the Rumble, then I'm fine with that. Beyond those two, there's really no one else that makes as much sense. So yeah, I guess Rollins. If they can heat him back up in time for WrestleMania, then Rollins. If not, then McIntyre. His second question, why is it that WWE can rarely seem to surprise us nowadays? Whether it be a call-up or a return, they usually just go ahead and announce it. Do you feel that this is because insiders will more than likely leak it anyways, or do they want to be known, or they want it to be known so they can hype it up? That's a good question. I'm not sure. With the call-ups, like I understand announcing the call-ups. Why not just keep the returns of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn a surprise? Like, that's what bothered me. I'm a big fan of surprises, so obviously I'm biased, but you're right. Like, they can't really seem to surprise us anymore unless they, like, announce it outright, which is fine. And it builds up hype, and it gets people familiar with these people with, like, these call-ups until they show up. These people, I'm not surprised, like Lacey Evans and Nikki Cross and, Heavy Machinery. I'm not surprised that they're announcing them outright because they're not really big stars. I would hope that someone like a Velveteen Dream or an Aleister Black or an Undisputed Era or a Ciampa or a Gargano would just be immediately called up as a surprise. That would be my hope. And they don't announce it ahead of time or anything like that. That's what I would hope they would do. I'm not sure what they're going for with these people, but I don't mind it because it gets them familiar with these people before they show up on Raw and SmackDown. With the returns, though, like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, I would hope that they would keep it a surprise. Obviously, they didn't. I guess just because they want to tell people, like, hey, Raw is going to be better. These people are coming back. They really want to stack Raw now. That's my only inclination. That's my only idea as to why they would announce it and not wait for those people to be back. I'm not sure. But, yeah, I do absolutely agree. I am more of the mindset that they should save these people as surprises and make it a bigger moment, as opposed to just, hey, they're coming soon. I'd rather, I understand the idea behind building hype behind someone's return or debut, but personally, I would rather see a surprise. But that's just me. At Scarlet1 from Twitter, with WWE promising new faces on the main roster, is there any one new face that could automatically freshen up the product? No, absolutely not. I think more new fresh faces is a good thing, but to anyone asking do you think this person or that person or these people could save Raw or SmackDown? No, because we've seen call-ups before that just go south. AOPP? Are you fucking kidding me? No one team, no one person can save Raw or SmackDown. Because once they get to the main roster, it's not exactly smooth sailing from there. I call it getting called down to the main roster. Because more often than not, these people get just buried creatively. So unless they show me that they can take an NXT star, like a typical NXT star, and yeah, there are some cases where they're used right, like a Kevin Owens or a Seth Rollins. That's very far and few between. More often than not, a lot of people from NXT are not used correctly on the main roster. So unless they can prove that to me with this upcoming batch of new stars from NXT with the Sullivans and the EC3s of the world and the Heavy Machineries and people like that, I'm not going to have much faith that these people are going to save Raw or SmackDown. EC3 is not going to be the saving grace of these shows. I'm looking forward to seeing how he does on Raw and SmackDown, Raw or SmackDown, but he's not going to save the shows. Because unless the creative writing changes, nothing will change about how these shows are perceived by fans. It doesn't matter how many bells and whistles you bring in. It doesn't matter how many gimmick matches you do on TV. It doesn't matter who's running the show and storyline. It doesn't matter who they bring up. Unless the writing and creative process changes, nothing will change. That's my big thing about the current regime and the current call-ups from NXT. Scarlet1's second question here, the penultimate question for today's show. Last week you sounded pretty dismissive of Aquaman and Bumblebee. Would it surprise you that Aquaman has a 70% approval score on Rotten Tomatoes and Bumblebee has a 96% score? No, it doesn't surprise me. I heard Bumblebee got good reviews. I heard Aquaman got good reviews. It's still not going to make me care about the movies. I think I might have said the movies would be shit. Maybe I said that, I don't know. I just said that I don't care about the movies. Yeah, they might do well. They probably will do well. The Bumblebee, the Transformer movies always do well because they're big, Transformers, blockbuster movies. They usually do pretty well. Otherwise, they would not be making sequels. I still have no desire to see Bumblebee. in the slightest. Aquaman, don't give a shit whatsoever. So the approval ratings on Rotten Tomatoes, I'm not one of those people to be swayed by Rotten Tomatoes. Like, oh, it has 100%, I'm going to go see it. Like, I don't care. Some people, a lot of people nowadays, having worked in a movie theater, I can tell you, a lot of people go by the Rotten Tomatoes scores. No matter how good or bad the movie is, as long as other people like it, they will go see it. And if they don't like it, they're not going to go see it. That was the case with Star Wars, and Star Wars was huge. But because other people didn't like the movie, a lot of people didn't go see it. And I enjoyed Star Wars: The Last Jedi. That's a whole other discussion for another day. But I enjoyed the movie. I didn't think it was that shitty. Some people shit all over it, but whatever. Aquaman, I still have no desire to see. Bumblebee, I still have no desire to see. Like I said earlier, if there's any one movie I'll see before the end of the year, aside from maybe The Mule, it would likely be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And final question, now that TLC has happened, what were the best and worst of Sunday's pay-per-view? So it kind of goes along with what I said last week. The best of TLC was the main event, Asuka, Lynch, and Flair in the TLC Triple Threat SmackDown Women's Championship match, Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles for the WWE Championship, and then also Buddy Murphy and Cedric Alexander for the Cruiserweight Championship. All three great matches. So those were excellent. The SmackDown Tag Team title match was also a lot of fun. The three-way between the New Day, Usos, and Bar. And then Ronda Rousey and Nia Jax was a lot better than it had any right to be. A lot like their match in Money in the Bank. So I'll say those matches too. The worst of Sunday's pay-per-view, R-Truth and Carmella versus Jinder Mahal and Alicia Fox. I still don't care about the Mixed Match Challenge stuff. I really don't. It was a fine opener, but I still don't care. It was okay at best. It was mediocre. The match wasn't exactly lighting the world on fire. Bobby Lashley and Elias on the kickoff show, I thought was fine at best. It was a ladder match. I'm so done with ladder matches right now. I've seen so many of them. I'm done with ladder matches for a while. So that wasn't exactly exciting. It was easily one of the most dull ladder matches I've seen in some time. It was And then Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose was honestly one of the worst matches of the entire show. Not like from a wrestling standpoint, but it wasn't exciting at all. For a match that got "this is boring" chants, that's not a great sign whatsoever. So that was disappointing. But yeah, that would easily be up there as one of the worst matches of the show for me. Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose was a big disappointment. So that, Elias and Lashley, and then Truth and Carmella versus Mahal and Fox would be the worst of TLC for me. Then the best would be Asuka, Lynch, and Flair, Bryan and Styles, and Murphy and Alexander. And that does it, guys, for today's edition of #AskGSM. Thank you guys for sending in the question. As always, next week is our final episode of 2018, so be sure to send in your questions by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well at facebook.com/gram.gsm.matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section of this very video. I'll be sure to include it in next week's edition. And also be sure to vote, guys, in the 2018 WWE/NXT Year in Review Awards, only on NextEraWrestling.net. We're breaking down the results and reviewing them on next week's edition of Wrestle Rant Radio. So with all that being said, guys, have a great rest of your week. This is the final episode before Christmas, so have an awesome holiday. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the reindeer road.